Hi there, thank you so much for joining me today. This video is my November update for my Pan Those Eyeshadows project. If you're new to this project, I randomly generate 5 shades. As I hit pan on one shade, I can bring in a new one. Because of this project pan, so far this year I've been able to hit pan on over 30 shades, which is super exciting. Probably something I would have never been able to do if I wasn't doing this project. Huge thank you to Alexi for creating this video idea. She has 2 years worth of videos like this on her channel, so I'll have her channel and her playlist in the description box, as well as anyone else who does this type of video. I'm going to start by showing you a picture of the 5 shades I was working with this past month. And now I'm going to show you the shadows that I hit pan on. I'm happy to say I hit pan on one of the shades from my quintet, and I hit pan on another shadow that was kind of just a bonus pan. So let's start with the one that was in my quintet. I have finally hit pan on Clionadh's Prophecy. This is such a gorgeous, unique shade in my collection. I loved wearing it sometimes just all over the lid. I loved wearing it with purples. It was a really pretty, unique shade, and I did really enjoy using it, but I'm so glad I hit pan because I've been working on this for several months. I do plan on rolling in one more shade this month just to see what would come up. I don't know if I'll be able to hit pan on all of the shades by my next finale, but I do think I will roll in another shadow just so I can have 5 to work with, and who knows, maybe it'll be like a really exciting shadow. Let's look at the other shades that I was working with, but I didn't hit pan on yet. The next 2 shadows are from the Color Raine Queen of Hearts palette, and I didn't hit pan on either of the shades I was working on, but on one of them I did make quite a lot of progress. The first one I want to talk about is Ladyship, which is that matte purple there. I did hit pan on Crown from this palette a while ago, and so I do know how deep the pans are. I am getting so much use out of it, and I finally figured out how to work with it, how to make it look good, because before I randomly chose this, this was my least favorite shade in the palette, and as a result I never reached for it. But now I figured out the formula a little bit better. I also just have a better idea of what types of brushes to use, where to place it, and I find that I don't dislike the shade as much as I used to. The next shade is the one right next to it in Duchess. This is a matte brown, and I have used this, I've reached for it quite a bit, but it's once again just a really tightly packed formula with not a lot of fallout, so it's not going to show progress very quickly. I don't think I'll have pan on that by the end of the year, but both of these shades I will continue to work on regularly until the end of the project and really give them the old college try. My next shade is from the Sultry palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills. It's another matte brown shade called Dystopian. This one is much deeper, a little more cool toned. I did reach for this a handful of times as well, but I really was using Duchess more than Dystopian. I didn't find that I needed both of them for any looks, so it was either one or the other. This one might have a little bit of a dip in it now, but I don't think you're going to see a ton of progress. It's a pretty shade. If I decide to just solely use this and not use Duchess at all, I might be able to hit pan on it by the end of next month, but it's not something I'm gonna try to do just because I don't really need all of my looks to turn really dark, cool toned brown. I don't feel great about this one having pan on it either by the end of the project, but once again, I will continue to work on it. My last shade from the quintet is the one that I randomly chose last month. It's from the Zoeva on Taupe palette. It's this bottom shade right here, Outline. I did reach for this 10 times in the past month. I really did want to play with it a lot more and just play with this palette more in general just to get a better feel for the formula. And I love how this looks all over the lid. I think this is a really pretty shade that just goes all over the lid, on the lower lash line, a little bit in the crease, some liner and mascara, and I think it looks really nice. It pairs well with a ton of different lip colors, so if I want to play more with the lip color, I can reach for this, and it creates like a little bit more of a neutral background for the bright lip. It's super pretty. These shadows are so tightly packed though, they give almost zero fallout, and so it is not something that I think I'm going to be able to hit pan by the end of the project, but I'm still going to continue to use it, and I'm not too worried about hitting pan on it because I did only just bring it in last month. Now let's talk about the shade that I did hit pan on. It is from the Naked 3 palette from Urban Decay, and it's this shade right here, Dust. I was using it as an inner corner highlight, and I did really like it for that. I don't love it all over the lid because it is very sparkly. It has a ton of fallout, and sparkles will just end up on your face throughout the day. So I don't think the formula is the best, but I did really like it on the inner corner. I thought it went well with that Prophecy shade from Clionadh. Had a little bit of like a pinky undertone, but it was still brightening, and I did like how that looked. I did that pretty much every day for the past 2 months, so I'm not surprised I hit pan on it. And I did grab for some other shades from this palette as well. I'm glad to be using it a couple more times, so I'm glad to have one more pan to bump up my pan percentage. Now let's talk about complementary shades. I do have a couple looks that I'm going to share with you at the end of the video, and I'll put which shades I was using in those looks. And in those I did use some other shades in order to complete those looks, or in general I just reached for other shades that went well with the quintet that I already had. and one of those was from the Tarte Make Believe in Yourself palette. It was the shade Fairy. It's this really pretty purpley shade right here. I paired this with the browns in my collection. I think I wore it on Halloween with an orange top, and you can see that in my Halloween video that I just put up. It was my Graveyard Project Pan finale. I did really like it. I was glad to pull for this palette to work with those browns. I do like having some browns in my quintet because if I do want to play with a random color or I just have something else I want to wear, I can use those browns as the base and then play with some of the other colors in my collection. So I was glad to do that, and that purple shade is really pretty. And my other two complementary shades are once again from the Zoeva on Taupe palette. They are Stitch by Stitch, which is this corner shade, and Hour by Hour, which is this light pink matte shade. I would mix these together to set my eyeshadow primer on my lid. They're very pigmented. You don't need a lot. I would also use Stitch by Stitch a little bit on the lower lash line if I ever wanted to brighten things up. I have been using them pretty much every day, every time I wore eye makeup for the past 2 months, and I'm still only just now making a tiny little dip. So just keep that in mind. These Zoeva palettes take forever to hit pan on. Even so, they're very useful in my everyday makeup looks, and I love being able to pull for this palette more. Now let's look at some numbers. My pan percentage last month in my last update was 18.3%. I had 36 pans out of the 197 shadows that I owned. In that last update, I had forgotten to add another palette in that I had recently purchased, so I added those shadows in, and then I hit pan on 2 shades in the past month. So now my pan percentage is 18.5%. I have 38 pans out of 205 shadows. My goal still is 20%. I don't exactly know how I'm going to do that. If I don't hit 20%, that's going to be fine because I did add quite a lot of palettes towards the end of the year. I think I bought like 5 or 6 palettes over the course of the year. So even though my number of pans was going up, so was the number of total eyeshadows. I still would like to hit 20%. Maybe there's some other shadows in my collection that I can incorporate into my looks more and maybe hit pan on some more bonus pans before the end of the year. All of the shadows that I have take a long time to hit pan on, so I don't know if I'm going to have any to show you my finale, but who knows, maybe I'll surprise you and myself. Maybe I'll be in the mood to wear a bright purple smoky eye every day for the rest of the month, who knows. And even though I do only have a month left of this project, I do want to bring in another shadow just to complete my quintet. So I'm going to pull out my Pretty Random app. Something changed in my list. I used to have a separate list of all of my shadows that I haven't hit pan on yet, and it went into a random order. I must have been sorting it for something, and I don't know how to get it back right now, so I'm just going to do my minimum of 1 and then my maximum of 205, and if I randomly choose a shadow that I already hit pan on, then I'll just pick again. I'm going to do it with you on the screen, and I only just remembered, I keep forgetting in every update, that you can shake the phone and it'll randomly generate. I don't have to like push a button, so I'm going to do that with you now. And my number is 63. Okay, so I got a matte cream shade from one of my Milani palettes. This is from the Most Loved Mattes palette, and it's the shade Fancy Vanilla. I've actually used this quite a lot already, so there's a chance that if I use this to set my eyeshadow primer and put it on my lower lash line to brighten things up, and just use it in general to fix whenever I overblend like past my eyebrow, then I might be able to hit pan on this next month. These pans aren't too deep, and I do use a fluffier brush, and I do use more product whenever I apply it because it's something that I put all over the lid. So I feel pretty confident about that one actually. I'm going to swatch all of my shades on my hand. So these are the shades I'm working with. I pretty much have all mattes and then one kind of satiny shade right here outlined from Zoeva. I don't really have much to say about this color scheme because it's very similar to what I've been working with for the past 3 or 4 months. I don't have any problem with it. These are shades that I like to work with anyway, so I'm not really worried about it. And I think I can incorporate a lot of different shimmers into my looks because I am working with a lot of mattes. I'm going to end this video with a little slideshow of all of the quintets that I had chosen every month up until this point, and then I will finish the video with my favorite looks that I created over the past month. But in the meantime, that's everything I have. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys!